Okay, in lesson 25, we're multiplying whole numbers by unit fractions. And we're going to be doing this using a tape diagram, and then we're going to explain the reciprocal method, or what on iReady they call skip, flip, and multiply. But we want them to understand why they're doing it, not just to follow the algorithm. And also need them to be able to identify a tape diagram that represents the algebraic expression they're working with. So I'm going to go ahead and start B here, and I'm going to start it by drawing a tape diagram. So here's our rectangle type tape diagram, and the total here from our algebraic expression is 3. Now, according to this, we are dividing it into quarters. Okay, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to split this up into 3 holes. And in the diagram, I'm going to make my holes a little longer so I can tell the difference between them and our fractions. Now, saying we're dividing 3 divided by 1/4, but I like to say 3 divided by quarters, because that's 3 holes divided by quarters. And I'm going to take this first quarter here, and I'm going to use dashes to split it in half. Then I'm going to split it into quarters. Now the second one, I'm going to split it into half. Then I'm going to split that into quarters. And then our last hole, I'm going to split it in half. I'm going to split it into quarters. Now up top, when I number this, I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3 holes. Now underneath, I'm going to list my quarters. And I'm starting here at the end. That's 0 quarters, 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarters, and 4 quarters, which equals 1 hole. Then I have 5 quarters, 6 quarters, 7 quarters, and 8 quarters, which equals 2 holes. Then I have 9 quarters, 10 quarters, 11 quarters, and 12 quarters, which I know 12 divided by 4 is 3, so I know I've done my quarters correctly. Now, if we come back over to the question, we said there are blank fourths in 1 hole. So if I look at 1 hole here, I can see I have 4 fourths in 1 hole. And there are blank fourths in blank holes. Well, I can see I have 3 holes here total. And I know there would be 12 fourths in 3 holes. Now, this last question says if 3 was 1/4, what is the hole? Well, I like doing another tape diagram, real quick one, to see it easier. I know this here is usually 1, and I'm going to split this up in, excuse me, we're looking for that hole. And it says 3 is 1/4. So if I put 3 is 1/4, that means every quarter is 3, so I know the total would be 9. So if 3 is 1/4, what is the hole? The hole would be 9. So by looking at this, I can see 3 divided by quarters. 3 divided by quarters, I ended up with 12 quarters. So 3 divided by quarters would be 12. On C, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a tape diagram. We're putting our hole on top, which was 4. And I'm going to split it into 4 holes. And once again, I'm going to drag my holes down so I can know the difference between them and the fractions. Then I'm going to list them on top 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And it says I'm doing thirds, so I'm going to have to split each one of these holes into thirds. Now I'm going to list the thirds. I got 0 thirds, 1 thirds, 2 thirds, and 3 thirds, which equals 1 hole. And I have 4 thirds, 5 thirds, 6 thirds, which equals 2 holes, 7 thirds, 8 thirds, 9 thirds, which equals 3 holes, and 10 thirds, 11 thirds, and 12 thirds, which would equal 4 holes. Now, coming back to the question, there are blank thirds in 1 hole. I can see right here that there are 3 thirds in 1 hole. And I know I have 4 holes total, so we had 12 thirds in 4 holes. Now 4 is 1/3. Once again, drawing a quick tape diagram, and I'm break it into thirds, then I know that 1/3 was 4, and the other two would be 4, so the total would be 12. Coming back up here real quick, made a mistake up. It says 3 is 1/4, so I ended up having to add another quarter on here. So this here should have been showed 12, which I put it as 12, but I forgot to draw the last quarter. Our last one we're going to do a tape diagram. Once again, this one here this time is fifths. And so we're going to put this into fifths and putting the holes down further. Now it says I'm going to split, if I number those, that's 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I'm going to split these into quarters. Okay, now we name them as 0 quarters, 1/4, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and the long ones are 4 quarters, which equal 1, 5 quarters, 6 quarters, 7 quarters, and 8 quarters, which equals 2, 9 quarters, 10 quarters, 11 quarters, and 12 quarters, which equal 3, 13 quarters, 14 quarters, 15 quarters, and 16 quarters, which equal 4, 17 quarters, 18 quarters, 19 quarters, and our last one over here was 20. So I should have drew it longer. 20 quarters, which equals 5. So we can see there are, in accordance with this, 4 fourths in one hole. So if I had 5 holes, I know that there are 20 fourths in 5 holes. So I know 5 divided by 1/4 equals 20. Now for our last one, a quick tape diagram. We know this is being split into fourths. We're looking for the total, and we know 5 is one of the quarters, so they would all be 5, and so our total would be 20. Okay, now this is where we got into talking to the students about reciprocal. They understand that dividing by 1/4 is the same as multiplying by 4. Okay, and the way we showed that was if we take 2 1/4, 1/4, and we do the reciprocal, which means we divide it by 4 ones, multiply it by 4 ones, we end up with 2 times 4 over 1, which is the same as multiplication gives us 8. So what I had the students do is that all they had to do was rewrite it. So we know 6 divided by 1/2 would equal 6 times 2, which equals 12. On this one, we'd have 5 divided by 1/4 equals 5 times 4, which equals 20. 5 divided by 1/8 equals 5 times 8, which equals 40. On 6, we have 6 divided by 1/3, which equals 6 times 3, which equals 18. We have 3 divided by 1/6, which equals 3 times 6, which equals 18. We have 6 divided by 1/5, which equals 6 times 5, which equals 30. And the last one, 6 divided by 1/10 equals 6 times 10, which equals 60. Okay, and question 4 says some students prepare 3 different snacks. They make 1/8 pound bags of nut mix, 1/4 pound bags of cherries, and 1/6 pound bags of dried fruit. If they buy 3 pounds of nut mix, 5 pounds of cherries, and 4 pounds of dried fruit, how many of each type of snack bag will they be able to make? So I'm going to go ahead and draw a tape diagram. And I'm going to start off with a nut mix. And it says they bought 3 pounds. So that means we're going to split this into thirds because it says 3 different pounds. So we have 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to extend them out. Now it says I'm going to make 1/8 pound bags. So here is half. There's my fourths. I'm going to split the fourths into eighths. So here I have, and I'm going to do that for each one of the holes. And the last one, fourth, and eighths. Okay. Now, there's so many of them. You can see the tape diagram starts getting hard once you have too many. But I know I have 0 eighths here, and one hole is going to be 8 eighths. 8 more is going to be 16 eighths, and the last one will be 24 eighths. Because I know there are 8 in each one. So I can tell by this, I'm going to end up having 3 pounds divided by 1/8, which equals 3 times 8, which equals 24 bags of nut mix. Now the second one talks about cherries. So cherries are in 6 pounds bags. So starting off, we have our hole, and it says they have 5 pounds of cherries. So we're going to split this up into fifths, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to extend them down so I can see it. That's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if I split them up, it's going to be hard to see in here. It says 1/4 pound bag, so let's try it. Here's 1, there's 4, there's another 4, there's a third 4, fourth 4, and I'm splitting the last one up into fourths. Now, when we start down here, I know I have 0 fourths. 1 hole would be 4 fourths. 2 holes is going to be 8 fourths, 12 fourths, 16 fourths, and 20 fourths. So let's see. I know I have 5 pounds of cherries divided by 1/4, which equals 5 times 4, which equals 20 bags of cherries. And our last one is dried fruit. I'm going to make a quick little tape diagram, and I hope you've seen it by now. It says dried fruit was 6. I'm not going to have a lot of room to divide it up, but I'm going to put 6 pounds on top. Excuse me, that was 4 pounds on top. And since it's 4 pounds, we're going to split them into fourths. And we know there's a 0 pound, 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pounds, 4 pounds. Now it says this one, we're actually splitting them up into 6. So I'm going to skip breaking this one up, and I'm just going to go 0, 6. And I know 1 is going to be 6, 6. 2 is going to be 12, 6. 3 is going to be 18, 6. and 4 is going to be 22/6. Jimmy, I'm sorry, 24/6. So now if we look at the algebraic expression we're going to use, it's 4 divided by 1/6, which equals 4 times 6, which equals 24. So they end up with 24 bags of dried fruit.